Welcome to the Travel Leader Podcast. I am your host, Rachel Vandenberg. On our show, I interview and connect with leaders across travel, hospitality, and tourism. We talk leadership in our industry, what has shaped them, the successes, failures, and everything in between. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Arun Upneja, Dean of the School of Hospitality Administration at Boston University. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you about the Travel Leader. The Travel Leader podcast is brought to you by the Travel Leader, a leadership coaching and content company. I coach individuals and deliver leadership workshops for teams to strengthen and develop leadership competencies and personal and professional performance. Learn more at www.thetravelleadercoach.com. Hello, welcome to the Travel Leader Podcast. I am here today with the Dean of the School of Hospitality Administration at Boston University, Arun Upneja. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've listened to your podcast and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, so we're in the same neck of the woods in New England, and I love following the posts of the Boston University Hospitality School, and you've got great content as well that you put out through email on leadership and hospitality. So great to have a conversation with you today. To get us started, I'd love to know, what is the red threads throughout your career?
I've seen you ask that to other people, and I have agonized over how I'm going to answer that. I think I'm an accidental tourist in this industry. I finished my undergrad in economics, and then I was looking for jobs, and I managed to find myself in a management training position in the best hotel chain in India, the Taj hotels, and went into operations. And I think that started my journey in the world of hospitality and tourism. Worked there for many years, moved to the US, and I got another degree in hospitality from the Hilton College in Houston. Then I seem to have moved away when I got my PhD, MBA, CPA, all that in accounting. But fortunately, this industry was for me because it brought me right back into academics to be a professor in a hospitality program. So I think accidental tourist is my best way of describing how I have spent my life and career in the world of hospitality and tourism.
I love that framing, because I think that's how so many of us end up in hospitality. I mean, I studied political science and sociology in college. Do have a hospitality background with my parents' family business, but I think we sometimes unexpectedly end up in this industry. And I'm curious, what do you think was something that drew you in and kept you wanting more to come back?
It's to delight people, people are out there to enjoy and have fun, and doing things that helps make them happy was something that really, I was working in the Taj Group, which is a luxury hotel, and it's when people come in, you want to take care of them and you want to provide them the services befitting a world-class establishment. The other huge big thing that I really really enjoyed about is interacting with people. In the course of our industry, you get to meet not just customers but also other service providers, your colleagues, your peers, and interacting with them, getting to know them, people from all over the world with different and diverse backgrounds. I just enjoy interacting with people. And so this is the perfect industry for me.
Yeah, yeah, that idea of service to others and sharing an experience and having them, produce joy out of it. I can relate for sure. So now you find yourself on the education side of things, which I can imagine is really impactful and meaningful. So, what is that impact and meaning that you are trying to create in your position now?
The world keeps changing at a very, very rapid clip. And the pace of change is also just increasing unbelievably
Mm,
fast. And so to sort of educate graduates who will go out and participate in this accelerated change is something that really excites me. So I want my students, when they graduate, to not just be participants in this industry, but to be the change maker themselves, to lead the change, to lead new things, new ways of doing things, new ways to entertain people. So to me, that is very, very exciting. And then on the other flip side, being an educationist, how do you help students fulfill their potential? That's the one thing that keeps me awake, because people have unlimited potential, and how do you educate them? How do you make sure that they are able to not just handle the day-to-day job, but back away, think much bigger like a leader, and see, okay, here are what the things that I'm doing, there are things that can be changed, the entire processes, or new ways of doing the business. So to me, that's very, very interesting. And I take that job very seriously, to improve the potential of human beings, or the students that come here, and obviously to change the industry as well.
Yeah, that is huge. I mean, I in the last couple of weeks I've been delivering some workshops on transformational leadership, which is so related to this idea of change and being able to lead change. How do obviously on a day to day in the classroom, you're teaching about hospitality content and the fundamentals. So how do you translate that into preparing them for the change and the things that they can't even prepare for because we don't know what those changes are going to be?
Right, absolutely. And that's the hardest part of this of the job that I'm in. The first thing is, you got to lead by example. So when you ask students and you say, okay, you've been in this school for 4 years, and I think you're going to hear most of them say that this school is not the same that we joined 4 years ago. And I
Wow.
think 4 years is a long time. I think year to year, you should be able to see and feel the differences, as the way the curriculum that we are offering, the courses we are offering, the kinds of people we are bringing in, the kinds of programs we are doing, the programs that we are doing, how we are modifying them, adapting them. Everything needs to change for the better every day. And over the course of weeks and months, and over the course of a year, you should see substantial difference. And of course, students see that and feel over 4 years the school has changed. So first is leading by example. The second is the faculty go and talk about all, give examples from the past, and give them a structured way to think about, when new things come in. So you've got to open their minds to, okay, this is not always going to be this way. Things are going to change.
Right.
And and then you provide them with a framework for how do you think about. So if students are attuned to the fact that things change, and they've got to adapt and change with the change, then they are, more attuned to going into this world and seeing new things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that idea, I've never thought about it that way. I think about it in the context of the workplace and leadership, and of course, as it happens in my presentation, I talk about the 7 habits of transformational leadership, and the habit number 1 is be the example. And so I often thinking about it in the context of, a leader being an example to their direct reports, but that absolutely extends to our institutions, right? And how do you build that into the culture? What a wonderful example of how you've implemented that, and role
Rachel,
modeling.
another thing I want to say about this is that unfortunately, most institutions actually do the opposite, which is students actually, I have a lot of faith in this new generation of students that we are educating now. I think they are much more ready for change. Their brains are more flexible, and they are more able to adapt. It's as educators, we go and say, well, this is how you got to do things. Then they go start working in companies, and the companies say, these are our policies and you've got to do them. And so I think we are, generally speaking, doing the opposite of what we should be doing, which is telling them that, look, new ways of doing things are not bad,
Right.
question everything. And there should be strong reasons behind doing things. And once those reasons don't exist, we should be willing to change. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
very, we see, all of us seem to be doing the opposite of what we should be doing.
Right. Yeah. No, and you're clearly setting that setting the example and setting the expectation right from the beginning of their career that this is going to happen, so you better get used to it now. Right?
We try. Yep.
Right. Yeah. So turning to a little bit more about your leadership, how would someone you work closely with you describe you as a leader?
So, I think for that you'll have to ask people. But what I can tell you is how I want to be perceived as a leader and
Hmm.
how I try to act as a leader. Um, how much success I have in that, you'll have to go and ask the people who work in my school. The first thing is that I want to treat people like human beings. So treat them as human beings first and then anything else. So they're employees, yes, they are being paid to do the work, but they're also human beings. Number two is that they're professionals. So you've got to treat them as professionals. In my mind, it really doesn't matter what color, what gender orientation, how much experience you have. You can be fresh off of college and you are here. You're going to get the same respect as someone who's been working here 20 years. You're going to start off with that at least. Now, if
Yeah.
you mess that up, it's your choice, but you're going
Right.
to start off with the same level of respect. You're going to start off with the same level of respect as a professional as well.
Hmm.
Even though you're learning the job, but you are still a professional. So I think people give their best when they are allowed, when they sort of are treated that nicely. So what does it mean to be treated as professionals and as decent as human beings? Which is that people are allowed to make mistakes. So they have
Right.
to feel safe, secure, and confident in what they're doing, which means that if they make a mistake, they know that it's fine. Nobody will come and say, Rachel, you screwed up.
Right.
Well, we all know that. Okay, so let's say that some mistake has been made. So we all know that that mistake has been made. So do you have to actually tell them that you made a mistake? No, I don't believe that. Do you? Then there's another pet peeve of mine when the boss will come up and say, well, don't do it again. Really? You need to tell me that?
Right.
I didn't make this mistake because I wanted to make this mistake. It
Right.
happened. It's a mistake. So in my organization, no one is allowed to tell anyone that you made this mistake or you don't do it again. If you make the mistake a second time, nobody will come and say you screwed up again. Don't do it the third time now. Why? Same thing. It's a mistake. Somebody messes up a third time. You cannot say that. I think
Right.
and I'm not going to say, we have a small organization. So this
Yeah.
one lady, and that I can say because most of them are female here, in a space of 30 minutes, made 3 different mistakes. And she said, Arun, you must think I'm such a klutz. I said, look, when I become perfect, then I might ask you some questions. But right now, just chill and relax. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's all of us make mistakes. So fine, don't worry about it. Then the other thing which I really like about this approach is that people then are allowed to ask questions. They're allowed to make proposals. They're allowed to do bold things because you know that if you make something bold and you fail, it's fine. Nobody will
Yeah.
come and say, well, you hung up your head. And I'll give you another example of where, a lot of organizations. A few years ago, I was starting a master's program here. So I was very excited and I made the proposals and I did it. And now it's about to be launched. So everything is set in place. And one of the senior executives came and said, you know that you're putting your career on the line with this launch. I said, what do you mean by that? So, well, if it fails, then your neck is on the line, right? I said, first of all, I didn't.
Yeah.
And second, I strongly believe that this will work. But if it doesn't work, in my mind, it's fine. So in our school, we have this policy that everything we do does not have to succeed.
Yeah.
We are allowed to make 1/3 or 40% of our projects can be a failure and it's still fine.
Wow.
So if some of our projects are not failing, I believe that we're not working hard enough. We're not pushing the envelope enough.
Right.
So
Yeah,
we
you're
keep
not.
doing things
Yeah.
until we start hitting some roadblocks and some walls. And then we know that, okay, we are really pushing up against something. So,
Wow, that is super powerful. I mean, yeah, that whole idea of psychological safety, right? And I can see also the connection between the two things you mentioned about treating people like humans and as professionals, that they go hand in hand, in that yes, we make mistakes as humans, and also I trust you as a professional to reach your potential and move beyond that mistake and make something out of it. So they really go hand in hand.
right.
And that last point, yes, I mean, that insight that if we aren't making mistakes, then we're not taking risks, we're not pushing ourselves to reach new heights and go above and beyond where we've been before. I think that's a really, really key insight for sure. So, changing gears a little bit, to a little bit more of the personal. What makes your life and work meaningful?
Wow. That's um, that's a very serious question. What makes my life and work meaningful? I'm driven by constant innovation and constant change. So when I'm doing different things, when I'm doing the same things differently, when I'm trying to improve the processes, when I'm coming up with new ideas, new things to do for the school, new projects for the students, I think that's where I really thrive. I don't want to be doing the same thing again and again and again. And I tell everyone as well the same thing, which is every job has some, and what I in my mind think of it as a regulatory aspect. You have to do that. Okay, so I have to do some paperwork. I have to decide on, scholarships. I have to decide on so many things. So 25, 30, 40% of my job is some things that I have to do. Then there's another big chunk. Then I say, okay, now I get to decide how I spend my time, what kind of new things I do. And I tell everyone that in my school that some people's job is going to be 70, 80% regulatory, 20,
Right.
30% new things they can do. The percentage differs, but every single person in the organization has some amount of freedom and flexibility to do their favorite projects or look at existing projects and say, we want to do this differently. So to me, that's when I'm doing new things, that's when I'm really at my best and I really enjoy creating new things, new processes, new programs, new ways of doing things.
Yeah. And to dive a little bit deeper on that, what is it about that gives you so much satisfaction?
I'm not sure that I can tell you, but I know that when I'm doing new things, when I'm coming up with new ideas and creating new programs, that that just gives me satisfaction.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that releases that dopamine inside my brain,
Right.
which says, okay, this is something new that that we are doing and I can get excited about. But if it's the exact same thing, you'll find that I kind of get bored doing the exact same thing again and again. That's why everyone in our school knows that even though we started in 1981, but our school is a startup. Everyone knows that, everyone understands that, and
Wow.
everyone who works there is comfortable with the idea that no 2 days are going to be the same, that
Yeah.
every year we're going to be doing new things. And if you don't like it, then this may not be the best place for you to work in.
Right.
But yeah, this is a startup. This is very, very clear in our school.
Yeah. It sounds like you're also driven a little bit by the challenge, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's so refreshing to hear this because, I mean, as you very well know, the hospitality and travel space isn't always the best at innovation and change. How can we develop that more in our industry?
First thing we've got to stop saying this is how we do it.
Yeah.
I think there is just too many issues. I mean, the restaurant experience is the same, the hotel experience is the same. Um, you know, Next time, every single time that I get a survey, when I go to a hotel and I get a survey, and they start asking me questions like, "How was your check-in experience? Was the lobby clean? Were people?" And I think to myself, geez, we've been operating hotels for 100 plus years. Do you think by this time we should have mastered the art of checking in people the way they want to be checked in? Do you think we should have figured out how to keep our lobby clean, how to keep the room clean by this time? Instead of asking people, okay, how was your experience of checking in? How did that make you feel? How was the ambiance of our hotel? How did the instead of asking the questions about how we made people feel, we are
Mm.
asking them simple, basic questions about cleanliness and about the speed of check-in. So first thing we've got to stop thinking about, okay, how we do it and how we want to do things differently. Okay, I'll give you a very concrete example. How many years has it been that most of us have been using a robotic vacuum cleaner in our house? It's
Yeah.
been a long time, right? How many hotels have you gone to where you've seen the vacuuming being done by a robotic vacuum cleaner? Not
None.
one. Why? It is well known that our housekeeping staff are aging and we are not
Yep.
getting new people coming into housekeeping. And this repetitive motion of vacuuming is hurting them. So it's driving them out of the job. So we are not getting new people to do housekeeping, and we are injuring our existing housekeeping and driving them out of the jobs. We're kind of just shooting ourselves in our foot
Right.
ourselves. So think about how we incorporate new technologies to increase efficiency, effectiveness of our employees so that they can work longer and we can actually pay them higher. I mean, there is this usual thing about employees want more money and employers don't want to pay them more because it's into their profitability. Well, if you leverage technology and you increase the amount of work they're able to do in the same amount of work, time that they have, then you can afford to pay them more.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of, just stop thinking about how we do things and stop thinking about new ways of doing things.
Yeah. Well, and what was coming up for me while you were describing that is that I think it used to be when you went, I feel like when you went to a hotel in the past, it was like you would find something different and unique and something you hadn't experienced before. And because of this pace of change in our society, it's now the household that is way ahead of the curve on technology and um everything from the quality of the mattress to the offerings of design in the home that I actually, when I go to a hotel, I sometimes wish, oh, I had what I had at home. And that's where we're really lagging behind, right? Like now we have Alexas in every room to turn on the lights. And, we have all these kinds of functionalities, and hotels are just not keeping up with that experience. And that's definitely what you highlight that needs to change.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And once you start thinking out of the box that we put ourselves in, then you'll come up with, new ways of doing things, creating new experiences for people. That, why did Airbnb come and become such a big force?
Yeah.
Oh, because we were not giving the customers what they wanted.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a mindset shift for sure. So, when have you in your career underestimated yourself?
you know, um, it's very interesting. So, before I became the dean here, I'm going to actually turn the question around and tell you that I overestimated myself. And a lot of people do that when they are working and they see their people above them doing things, doing certain things, and you say, well, I could do that better. I can do that better. I want that job because I think I can do that better.
Right.
And I think before I took up this job, I never really had leadership position where I was managing and supervising people directly. And so I said, oh, being a dean is easy. I mean, why can't they do this? Why can't they do that? Why can't they do this? And when I came in, I came along against a lot of resistance, and I had to learn how to lead people, how to get, even now, when I say, okay, I want XYZ done, and people do it, and I think to myself, yeah, but I could have done it better. But yeah, but if I have to do everything, then I can't move this organization forward. So it has been a long learning process of how to manage and lead people. So I think I overestimated my abilities, and now I have a very healthy appreciation for people who lead successful organizations, that it is not easy to do so. It's
Yeah.
it's very hard.
Yeah. I so appreciate that insight, particularly because my work is all about leadership development, and I think, that is often a challenge is when someone has a really rich background of subject matter expertise and they're a doer and very good in execution, and then when they go to that position where they have to lead people, it's an entirely different skill set, which a lot of it comes through experience, and learning and making mistakes, and tweaking and experimenting and doing, continuous improvement, of course.
I had made a lot of mistakes. I had a lot of big screw ups and blunders, and I read deeply and I listened, talked to people. I had a leadership coach who helped me. In fact, not just one coach, but I had multiple mentors who
Yeah.
helped me through this. Um, and over time, there was a faculty member who was on our faculty at one point, and she really helped me a great deal understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing and how people perceive.
Yeah.
I may mean something else, but people are going to perceive it differently. So there is just so much to leadership that everyone really needs to look on and say, I'm not a perfect leader. I need to learn, and I need to constantly learn, and I need to constantly evolve. And unless you're able to look at yourself in the mirror in a
Yeah.
harsh light, you cannot succeed.
No, 100%.
That
Yeah.
self-awareness is so important, Rachel.
Yes. Yeah, completely. And that was my very same experience, is that, I shared in my presentation last week that at the beginning that I thought that I needed to figure out how to get other people to do what I wanted them to do, and realize that, wait a second, it's not other people that need to change, it's I need to change. Which is such a big insight. Yeah. So, is there an event in your career that you feel like has really been instrumental in shaping you as a leader?
I'm not sure that I can point to a single event. I think there have been hundreds and dozens and hundreds of events that have shaped me as a leader. And I'm still evolving and I'm still learning, and I have a long way to go, because right now I'm leading a group which is, relatively a small group. And I know that as you get into bigger organizations, leadership becomes even more a challenge, because then right now I can interact and engage with every single person in my
Mm,
organization. But if you're leading 50, 100 people or more, then you cannot do that. And how do you then make sure that your philosophy and the culture that you're trying to create is going to permeate through to the people who are reporting to you and to
right.
everyone else? So it's a learning process, how to be a leader. And there have been just so many instances, and I kind of keep my eyes and ears open and I listen. And I'll give you one quick example. We hired a new employee, and I got on very well. It's a small organization. Then, over a course of a few months, I found that her relationship with me was getting very frosty.
Hmm.
And I did not understand why, because I'm not interacting, engaging with her in a daily manner, so I'm not giving that employee tasks and stuff and then saying, okay, this is not done properly, or whatever it is.
Right.
Um, then later on, I discovered that there was a person who was between me and this employee, who was feeding the wrong things to her about me, was going and telling her that, well, Arun doesn't like you because Arun doesn't like you. He keeps
Oh,
telling me
wow.
all the time that your work is not good. And her work was absolutely outstanding and amazing. And so, since that person was that employee's direct supervisor, even though her experience with me was very positive, but it was shaped by this other person in between us. So, as a
Yeah.
leader, it's not just our interactions with the employees that matter, it's the interaction that the employees are having with other people, and particularly with their supervisors, that is shaping their attitude towards the senior leader in the
Right.
company. So that was, and I saw that pattern again and again. At that one, there was a time when I couldn't really understand what was happening, and I was so frustrated that I'm doing all the right things, but
Yeah.
yet people are not engaging and interacting with me the way I think I'm behaving with them. And so it took another person as a coach who helped me see this through. And so I'm now much more attuned to that than I was in the past. I was oblivious to it. I was blind to it. So,
Wow.
so there are many such incidents that have happened, which have shaped me into my thinking, into how I want to lead the organization.
Yeah. No, I mean that I think that's probably unfortunately a common scenario that comes up in organizations at different levels of leadership. And so, so how do you as a senior leader influence that situation? What did you learn from that?
So, first of all, I've learned that people who come into my office all the time and say, I'm dedicated to your success, I've now started being a little skeptical of that. I want work to be done. I don't want people to come and say, Arun, you're so great. You're doing these wonderful
Mm,
things. Just do your job, be a human being, treat people nicely, and be a professional. I don't need people walking into my office every day saying, this was a brilliant decision. That was just amazing what you did. I
mhm.
know that in the short run, it makes you feel happy and it makes you feel proud that, okay, I'm doing some things. But at the end of the day, you don't know the motivations of the person who's coming again and again and trying to tell you that, you are next to God. You're just an amazing decision
Mm,
maker. I know. I mean, there's so many things I do which are not good. So I need people to come and tell me if I screw up. Just close the door and say, Arun, that was just a stupid thing to do. I'm a big guy, I can handle it if you're telling me in closed doors. Now, if you tell me in
yeah.
front of all the staff and say, Arun, that is such a stupid thing you're doing, that might get me, going a little bit.
Right.
But in front of staff, in the whole meeting, you can push back at the ideas I have and force me to explain what I'm trying to say. Because many times I'm just moving so fast in my head that I skip A, B, C and go straight to D, and people are still stuck on B or C. Then you say, okay, explain what you're doing. How did you go from A to D? How did you make that decision? And allow people that time to reach up to the decision. And there is also a possibility that I've been too hasty in going A to D. I should have stopped at C. So people should have, and this is going back to the original thing about the safety and trust,
Yeah.
that they should have the ability to question you and ask you questions and push back. They should have that safety, psychological safety. But if you really want to say something nasty to me, come close my door and say, Arun, that was a screw up. You
Yeah.
should not have said that to so and so in the meeting.
Right.
And so, yeah, so that's part of the reason why the senior leadership, I like and I trust them so much that they come into my office and they'll tell me that. Then, okay, I have to trudge to that person's office and say, I am sorry. I
Yeah.
said this to you in the meeting. I should not have said that.
Yeah.
And then that
Well,
makes them feel good.
yeah, I mean, what I think you're pointing out is that trust and respect is not just blowing smoke and positive affirmations, but actually trust and respect, a sign of that is also when someone is courageous enough to challenge you or to ask questions. Um and stand up for their opinion, and that's actually the true test of whether that trust is there between leaders and colleagues.
Yeah, and I'll give you another example. And it's a small group, so I'm gonna be hazy on some details, and
Sure.
that's out of necessity.
Yes,
So
of course.
I was deciding on some things in the school about a particular aspect of the school. And I had a new employee who had been just there like 7, 8 months. And she comes to my thundering down to my office and said, well, I wasn't consulted on this. I'm thinking to myself, well, you've just been here 8 months. And I've been thinking about doing this for like 3 years now, and I want to do this. And what do you mean?
Yeah.
I didn't. But I said all of that inside in my mind. I didn't say it out aloud. I said, okay, can you help me understand why you think you needed to be consulted? So she explained the reasons why she thought she needed to be consulted. And I was very happy because I agreed with her that she should have been consulted, number one. And number two, I was so happy that this new employee who's been here 8 months can walk into the dean's office and say, I should have been consulted. So I knew that I was doing something right.
Yeah.
And I was very happy. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put a stop to this right now. I'm going to put a temporary break, and I'm going to give you a chance to evaluate everything. And once you're satisfied and you've had your input, only then we will move forward. This was my pet project. I've been wanting to do this for like 3 years, and the pandemic and all. So
Right.
I was really raring to go ahead, but I
Yeah.
put a stop to it, and I gave her full chance to provide her input, and then we move forward. So
Wow.
yeah,
That is such a great I mean, that right there, I mean, you're just role modeling that self-awareness and demonstrating that, that idea of how you create that culture and buy-in from your team members. I mean, I think that's also what, even though I would be probably pretty annoyed myself if I was really gung ho about something and I was ready to pull the trigger. That's a hard decision to make, to put it on hold. And at the same time though, it's if you reframe it and look at it from the angle of, wow, she cares so much and feels already so bought into the organization that she wants to have a say, that's also a good sign, for sure.
yep, I was very pleased. I was so happy I couldn't even stop my smiles, and I had to
Y-
say, okay, be serious, Aaron. You can't really. So yeah, tried my best to be serious, and I said, you're absolutely right. And
Yeah.
sometimes you make good decisions. Of course, I'm telling you all about the good decisions. I think I have the good decisions that I've made. I've made plenty of boo-boos as well. So, um, but yeah, that
Yeah.
was a good decision I made, and I'm very proud. and I'm very
Yeah.
happy.
No, absolutely. So we've been talking about a lot about change and innovation. What do you think are the leadership competencies that are needed in order to affect that kind of change and innovation?
The first thing is don't see any walls. And that's my life philosophy. There are no walls for me. So
Mm,
if I have to do something, I don't buy into any of the normal conventional constraints. I think that all leaders should be doing that. Um, and that's the problem that we have is, people go in a constraint based environment. And
hmm.
so the decisions you can make, you don't, the traditional way, saying to think outside the box. Well, you have to think outside the box if you're constrained by the box. But if you are not in a box, there is no constraint around you, then every kind of solution is possible.
Yeah.
So that to me is very, very important. In addition to what I said earlier about respecting people as human beings, treating them right, with empathy, with humanity, and trusting them as professionals, allowing them to grow in the organization, allow them to make mistakes, allow them to make the decisions. These
Yeah.
are some of the things I strongly believe our thing should be. And I also mentioned initially, a few minutes ago, the startup mentality really, really gets me going and exciting. So I think
Yeah.
those are some of the things I think are important.
Well, I'm inspired. I mean, I by what you just said because we're my family we're doing an expansion of our hotel, or we hope to develop and build some new hotel rooms. And you made me realize, and my wheels are turning while you're saying that like all I can see right now are the walls and the constraints, and that I need to think differently about that. And how you can break down those obstacles and think about opportunities instead.
And buy furniture that you can put an autonomous vacuum cleaner like a Roomba that can clean the room.
Yes.
Don't put, many years ago I went and I see so many hotels and I see furniture and I'm like, these legs are so close together that a Roomba cannot go
Right.
through. So make
Right.
sure that you buy the furniture. And I would love to come and visit your hotel at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You are welcome anytime, for sure. So yeah, also this we're just about to finish up, but I want to ask you one last question. Because you have this startup mentality and always wanting to do new things, I think this is a great question for you. What vision would you pursue if you had everything you needed to succeed right now?
So, first of all, I'm not sure that I totally agree with the question. I think I have everything I need that I want to do. I have absolutely the best students one could possibly want. They're amazing, perfect for our industry. Our faculty and staff are just outstanding human being professionals. I have the resources, I have the support from the university. So we are just trying to do things we can. We have added so many graduate programs. We are expanding into executive education. We are expanding into online programming. On one side, the other side, we are doing things that are leading in the industry in terms of our curriculum changes, in terms of um, how we think of hospitality. We are not restricting, like I said, the no walls thing. We are not restricting ourselves to hotels, restaurants, and food service. So we think hospitality is anywhere where there are human beings and where human interactions are an important part of the business. So if you think of senior living, that's hospitality. If you think of
Right?
sports and entertainment and retail, all of these are part of our world of hospitality. So we are trying to do all of these things. I'm
Yeah.
very proud of the organization that we have, the best staff, the best faculty, the students are building, support from senior leadership at the university.
That's wonderful. I mean, and a great reframe of my question that, I think I often go under the assumption that people feel these limitations, right? That they feel that there's a reason why their dream can't be pursued. And that's a sign of someone who's also done a lot of self-development and professional development. So I love that reframe of the question. So we're closing up our discussion today. Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience?
We have the best school on the planet. If you want, come and study with us, masters, undergraduate, come and engage with us. Through the industry, I would say we are absolutely the thought leaders at the cutting edge. Please come engage with us.
Love it. And be sure to follow Arun on LinkedIn and the Boston University School of Hospitality Administration. Lots of good content coming out of there. Well, thanks again, Arun. It's been a pleasure. This is the Travel Leader Podcast, and have a great day.
Thank you.